We're unmuted and you're live. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Opioid Settlement Funds Advisory Committee. It's Wednesday, August 13th. It is 6 p.m. And we are in the new council chambers. So joining us this evening, we have Jamie Beck, who's here from Penobscot County from their opioid committee. There were supposed to be two more coming. There may be, but if not, we will still have the discussion, or at least start a discussion. And around the table, I think we're pretty much all, we're missing one. Do I want to announce that publicly or just leave it alone?
Probably say.
I mean, we have had a resignation.
Yeah, without any details.
Okay, we have had a member of this committee resign today, and that was Lisa Williams Rogers. But I think she goes Lisa Rogers, correct? Either way, she did resign today. So if you know someone that might be interested in filling that term, please let us know and we'll contact them and see if they're interested. And if not, we'll go with what we have. So
what's the perspective that she felt?
I mean,
what was the perspective that she felt?
She was from Wellspring.
Okay, so treatment.
Yep.
Okay. So please aware.
Yeah, that's her. Okay, so let's get to the heart of it. Why we asked you here. As if you don't know why we asked you here. We have been in discussion since we formed this committee about how we can collaborate and work with the county, especially on projects and the spending of the opioid settlement money. Our first project has gone in. It did get passed. It went through council Monday night. So we'll be starting that just as soon as we possibly can. And that was on the HIV. The committee deemed that as being the most urgent and, emergent as well of all the other ideas we had. Were you looking at doing anything in that line on the county with HIV?
So as of this moment in time, we are developing and kind of finalizing our application process, our RFP process. We were still looking through, and I brought as a reference if everybody wanted to see it. The Maine Recovery Council had a consultation presentation back in 2023 that helped them kind of shape what their foci should be. And I pulled some of that information, wondering if there's some overlap, crossover that the county and the state could collaborate on. As of right now, like I said, we haven't narrowed in on any of these yet as what kinds of RFPs we want to see. But as it stands as of this moment, we have a meeting on Monday. We're going to try and get that application to the county commissioners so that they can take a look at it and finalize that, look at the rubric of like what kind of things we're going to be looking at to score. And then also working with the Moss Center to make sure that, especially since all these 170, I think it is 170, something like that, don't quote me, got passed about the specific metrics that we need to report back to the state. We need to be sure that we're letting people know up front, these are the things you're gonna have to track so that we can share your data of the impact that you're making with this funding. So that's gonna take a little bit of time just to make sure that we're covering our bases, we're doing things correctly, so we're not leading our applicants and potential grantees astray. So that's kind of where we're at, hoping to get that finalized and shared out to the public mid-September, do a bit of a webinar to just kind of go over it with interested applicants. They can ask questions, and then it will officially open October 1, and deadline for submission is November 15th, with the intention of by the end of this year, by December 31, we'll have notified the recipients of this first batch of money, which is the sum of what we got right now, which is about 1.2 million. So that's where we're at right now, subject to change, but I'm sharing what I know at this moment in time. All the caveats, right?
Well, yes, they have to be there.
So, I don't know if we want to use this as a jumping point for conversation of what we see in Bangor as a service center, but seated within Mascot County as priority for types of projects that we can collaborate on. It's digging up like priorities, you guys took a huge chunk of your money towards HIV, so maybe that's not something that we put any money towards, so that we can spread our use across the different pillars.
I think
This is your meeting.
that's one of the important reasons why I wanted to communicate with you, so we're not doing the same thing without knowing that we're all doing the same thing.
And I feel like it wasn't just HIV, it fell under the umbrella of, homeless, HIV and opioid use disorder being the sharing of the needles, is why we helped that group of people.
Right.
I'm Shelley, and I represent both of my children died of overdose, and so I'm here for the personal part of it. But I also am very interested to know, like, when you guys know what you're doing as far as where you're going to put your money. I don't know when you will know that. Would that be like not till November 15 and you start grading them?
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas or plans or just?
I can tell you what I want to do, but as far as what the committee
Right.
has decided on, that's a totally different thing. Yeah, we have not prioritized any of this at this moment.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All
that's
right, that's good to know.
kind of where we're at and part of our conversation for our Monday meeting.
Okay.
Have you broken it down into dollars yet? What do you anticipate?
So the way that this first RFP, and again, subject to change, but what we kind of talked about the last meeting is that we'll do 3 different funding tiers, trying to spread the money out as much as possible. First tier being up to $10,000, second tier $10,001 to $25,000, and then third tier is $25,001 to $49,999. So we're just under that $50,000 cap to have to be enrolled in the government ID SAM backup stuff. So that way we can kind of like spread out the money, and then potentially if this falls in line with what commissioners are also thinking that we could in subsequent years, since it's a smaller pot of money, just like you guys are getting smaller pots of money from here on out, they had a big chunk to begin with. We would be able to fund fewer projects but at a higher grant award level. So that's at least our line of thinking at the moment, subject to change. But hopefully that way we can make an impact on a lot of different organizations and entities at this point with the larger chunk of money, and then do more substantial assistance in future years. Did I answer your question?
You did, thank you.
Very well, yes.
Yeah, I think the one logistical thing that we should stay in touch on is the award making process, because I imagine that we will have applicants who may be proposing to fund their projects with revenue from both programs.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know how to do that, and maybe it should be determined, but at least wanted to acknowledge out loud that we should do that.
For sure. Knowing we were gonna probably come up against that same as the ARPA process. So it's very helpful to have Wendy Dana on our committee as well, because she went deeply into that ARPA process too. We did add to our draft application, there is a box that says, have you applied for opioid settlement funding from another entity? Have you received it? So like, yes, no, definitely a necessary answer. And then if it's yes, there are more necessary answers. From whom, when, how much, what for, how far are you in the process? How is this funding going to help bolster what you're doing or expand what you're doing, or et cetera. And I think those ones get flagged for that. Those are the ones, especially if it says Bangor. Yes, we have applied, or we are intending on applying, so that's how your application process will line we kind of all know at the same time who's applied for what, and then that first week after the deadline, we can say, hey, we received 35 applications, you guys received 30 applications, and just kind of match up, okay, who's applied for what, and then maybe we can come together and have a conversation about, okay, either they're applying for 2 different projects from each of us, and that's okay, because however you guys are prioritizing your funding, if it's by pillar, if it's by initiative, whatever it is. Or if we say, you know, they're applying for a chunk of money and it's gonna be either or, I think that's a conversation for when we see what we get.
In other words, you're not denying somebody just because they've applied in both, okay?
Legitimately.
Yeah.
Either the county commissioners, just like the city council, are gonna have to make the finals yes, no. There are some things that the commissioners might fund that the council won't. There are some things that the council might fund that the commissioners won't. So I think it's short-sighted and not best practice to just flat out say, no, you apply to both, pick one. In addition to, I mean, I know Rob Appy got a nice bit of money from the Maine Recovery Council. Does that preclude them from coming back and asking for more money? I wouldn't think so. There are more initiatives that you can work on, that you can make an effort in and have capacity to do. Those kinds of things are what we're trying to think about and be really careful about it, but also knowing not everybody has the capacity to write phenomenal RFPs that get them exactly the money that they want. There are smaller organizations that don't have that, that still need the money, so.
I think that's really important. I think most agencies at this point have to put together many funding streams to implement one program or to implement one. And so I think that's very typical. I think when we look at things like the detox center, that's multiple funding streams. The Maine Recovery Council funding is just a tiny portion of what it takes to run that every year. So
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. I don't know if you've gotten this far in your process, but when you get to the point where you're scoring applications, are you having conversations about, are you talking about your scoring rubric yet, of like what you're prioritizing, what's that gonna look like? I believe you guys got a lot of the same resources that we did from the Mock Center, and that kind of thing. So just looking at that, and if there are any like discrepancies between the way that we're doing it, just so people are like, oh, they got this, well, they got that, okay, but try to be fair to everybody, but at the same time, we can't please everyone, so.
Yes, very true. We are in the process of, we are going to use that. We did decide we would use the same scoring rubric that they have. Our letter of intent is ready to be looked at tonight and then ready to proceed with that. As far as a deadline, what did you use for a deadline on yours?
So
if we're trying to line it up,
is November.
November
We wanted
15th.
to give people 6 weeks from, and honestly, they'll have about 8 weeks total, because we're gonna try and release the application in September and do the webinar so that, if people have questions, there is time that we can do that before the application is actually open for submission.
It's pretty close to what we talked about earlier, was the middle of the month of September, and then having that workshop.
Yeah, I think the distinction is that, I think unless I have it wrong, what the committee sort of discussed and landed on last meeting was that we would issue the letter of interest solicitation and do the workshop and use that information to potentially sort of tweak our rubric and inform where we wanted to just sort of focus as priority areas. But I think, and please jump in if I have it wrong, 'cause it was sort of my understanding of the committee's consensus was that we didn't maybe feel informed enough today to decide before hearing from people what the priorities are.
Gotcha, okay, so you're using your LOI process as like your needs assessment.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. yeah, that's kind of because the county is so much bigger than the city in what resources are needed and knowing that our pot of money is intended for the whole county and not just for Bangor. That also might be a consideration for conversations when we all get our applications together and let's go through who's applying for what and that kind of thing. Because, you know, we want applicants from across the county. We don't want just like Queen City area applicants. But even looking at like some of these assessments, the findings, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look through Exhibit B from the Maine Recovery Council. It's like 17 pages long. There's a lot of potential uses, which is great, but not all of those are applicable to this area or this county, as we all know. So I think that a lot of these statewide needs assessments more closely fall in line with what we're seeing in Scott County, particularly I think looking at like that page 3. Any recommendations from the public? Top 3 priorities: support people in treatment and recovery, treat opioids and substance disorders, and connect people who need support to support they need. So it's bridging those gaps. Not shocking, right? But yeah, you can see the percentages of the respondents. We were at Maine Recovery Advocacy Project did listening sessions last year across the state, and I asked them to send me just the Penobscot County data, and much of that also were a little bit more specific, but really dialed into pretty much those same ideas. So I think those are going to end up being higher priority bucket money for us versus some of the completely valid, but maybe not as applicable, like research-based approved uses, or I know that education, the schools have their own pot of money that they got directly from the state. Not saying it's enough, but it is dedicated specifically to them. So.
Can I ask you a question?
No.
Yes. Hi, I'm Jamie also.
Hi, I'm Jamie.
Nice
Can you
to-
spell your name the right way? So
Many people get that so wrong.
I know.
Like 15 I's and a name. So like I see under like prevention and treatment and recovery support, some of the challenges called out that are common are community conditions and stigma. So I was just wondering if you've considered like how you might address an application that looked at getting at community conditions or stigma that would be across like several areas, if you've considered that at all?
yeah, I mean, again, this is not something that the county commission has dug into deeply, but I'm thinking about, are you thinking about like an educational initiative, like an awareness building?
Gosh, I don't even know. I was just so many like, I represent prevention. I spend my days on prevention. And so, a lot of, even outside of schools, so resources for parents and support for parents and kids outside of school, maybe younger. There are lots of, that's the age that the risk kind of starts. So just knowing that those things are common, have been cited as common barriers by, those 3 areas, that's.
Yeah. I mean, decreasing cases is
Right,
huge,
yeah.
100%. I mean, I can't really speak to how we would prioritize it because we have not had that conversation.
Yeah.
So I wish I could say more about it, but
That's okay, yeah.
we haven't had that conversation yet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Questions, comments?
Do you guys anticipate wanting to continue with your process and then we'll kind of regroup mid October when stuff starts coming in. What do you anticipate as next steps for our interaction?
I would say we would want to when things start coming in, because that's,
Do we know if we both got the same grading rubric from Moss? It is the exact same.
So I took a look at it and I think that they only gave, like descriptors of the 1 through 5 for the first like 3 in that spreadsheet. And so I did just a template, hey, what would 1 through 5 look like for the other 7 topics or whatever. We have not approved that. I'm sure that this Moss can give you, because they've given us as well, the scoring rubric in a Google form. The way they give it to us, we're gonna have to ask for a different version of it, because I think it's just the ability to fill it, not to make a copy and be able to give it to other people. So it's not the back end version, it's the outward facing version, but yeah, I think that it will be very similar. We don't wanna diverge too much from it or consider too many other outside factors other than the prioritization of the types of projects, just because we want to keep it as fair as possible and not be like, oh, well, this extenuating factor made us want to give this project funding over that project funding, even though that project scored higher, yada, yada. We don't want to get into, it's disingenuous. So we want it to be as fair and just as possible, so.
so that was a yes, we would want to. I noticed you're still looking like, well. That was a yes, we will want to get back together once we start getting things back in and get a look at what is coming in. We certainly should schedule again.
Yeah.
How far ahead do you need to know for your schedule?
That's a good question. We're a much smaller group than you guys are and don't have the constraints of having this room used for other things most of the time. And we honestly meet during the day. So
Okay.
we have a little bit more flexibility, although it's starting a little less flexibility than others too. So,
Okay.
yeah, if you guys could just let us know, like you're meeting every 2 weeks.
Yes, right
Yes,
now.
so if you're planning, whenever your next meeting's coming up and you want us to be there, let us know, because that'll give us 2 weeks notice.
Okay. Sounds fair.
This week was hard, we did a double.
Yes, we did. Well, we had to get on that other rotation. So, yeah, we'll be sure that you're notified. I'll probably will use your contact because you're here. Are you planning to come back when the administrator comes?
I'm not sure, I wasn't sure that, I wasn't aware that he was coming next time to meet with you guys, and he's actually gonna step back from our committee since Wendy Dana has stepped up, so with there aren't too many
Okay.
people, the
All
county
right.
people on the committee.
Maybe we should have Wendy then,
Either,
because she
either way.
handled all the ARPA grants too.
She did, she's agreed to kind of be the secretary, if you need to take her, and because I'm a glutton for punishment, I said I would facilitate. I'm a glutton for punishment. So either way, we're all happy to be here and well, I'm happy to be here for the rest of it.
You know, I think one of the, I'll be a little bit, I'll give myself a kick. One of the downsides of having a new city manager is I didn't do the ARPA process. And so Wendy might be a good person to have also just to hear what some of the pitfalls from her perspective running the program was, things we should watch out for that slowed down or made the process more difficult. She probably has a nice level of expertise that could be helpful.
Yeah, the city and the county did 2 different ways of doing the ARPA process. And I know from what Wendy shared with us that we are not going to be using the same software because it was cumbersome and expensive. That's why Google Forms are easier for everybody, or something of the like. So it makes it a lot easier for the committees to do their reviews and that kind of thing.
You know what software they use?
Remember that being there.
We do have some, I should mention, we have something available from the city called, I believe, Neighborly. that the city uses for CDBG grants.
Yeah, that was.
Is that the one?
Potentially, no, that's a different one.
Yeah.
Someone who looked at that for if there was a potential for submitting an application. It's not as easy either.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no perfect solution to anything, I'm just gonna say. It's a trial and error on a lot of different platforms.
Well, certainly if Wendy wants to come, that's fine, but I think the administrator was interested in coming, so it'll be 3.
Yeah.
No problem with that.
If you guys need me any longer, I don't wanna hold up your meeting.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
I'm sure we'll have multiple more conversations.
For sure, and here's all my contact
You know where to find you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you print that off?
I printed myself a copy, do you want? It was,
No, I have it.
it was emailed around, but, you like a copy?
Yeah, no, I don't want to copy, I say you did a good job,
Oh, okay.
sorry.
Do you want to walk down through it?
Sure. Yeah, so I really used,
Oh, hold on just one second. Oh, yes. We do have one other topic we need to talk about. It's conflict of interest. It has been brought up that there could be several of you sitting at this table that when it comes time for the actual process of looking at these, that there would potentially be people that would have to recuse themselves from working on those types of applications. We kept that last project, I thought, very, very open, very clean. But as you saw, there were comments to the otherwise that felt it was not. So we'll just have to be really cautious of which ones we're looking at. And you're really gonna have to just be on your honor as to say, I probably shouldn't look at this one. And then we're gonna have to decide. We might even be able to just pick a couple, 2 to 3 people off in this committee, larger committee, to be the RFP process committee that could review. If there's someone that doesn't feel they would have a lot of conflicts with the applicants coming in, we can do that. And they can be the ones that look at them, review them, fetter them out, bring back questions or whatever.
That sounds like a great idea.
Like grading them and then bringing them back to the table, or?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
so that then we're not losing everything. We don't, if we send it back to council, then that's kind of counterproductive to what we were formed to do. But we need to have a process that's fair and making sure that we don't have any conflicts of interest. So as we move forward, we'll have to come up with that committee and be ready for that, because these will start coming in once we. But they'll all, the letter, I believe, had the city manager's address. So she will have all of them, and before they're doled out, we'll make sure we have that committee in place that can do the work.
Does that include the letter of intent too? I have a little bit of a uneasy feeling about
Yeah.
working on a letter of intent that I'm going to fill out, or that my team is gonna fill out.
No, be all of
Knowing
it.
ahead of time. Like, so I'd like to hear some comment from the rest of my committee members here.
I would say, I feel like we can't completely eliminate all conflicts because we're all sitting here from different agencies and stuff. So the reality is we need to minimize it. But if we're asking for a letter of intent from all agencies, then all agencies are gonna have to let us know what their intent is. So I don't see the conflict.
Yeah, I don't either. You know,
That's just my 2 cents.
I was gonna, if it looked like it was gonna be iffy, I'd have somebody from staff do the letter of intent, that's all. I don't know how you would.
No, we would not have anybody representing our organization here to, at that point, because.
No, do a letter of intent.
Well, even that, I'm feeling a little uneasy about, because I think it puts it gives a little bit of a favor to the committee members who are helping to design the letter of intent. We know sort of we know what we're looking for, we know what we, and so I'm a little uneasy about that in light of past public comment on the process. So I'm putting that out there. I'm not saying that, but I would, I need to know from the committee sort of how we feel about that and sort of then decide whether or not I can stay for that conversation, because I don't want to put, like you said, all of our agencies are sort of, we're here in this area and it's a really hard situation, but I also, I don't want to be in a place where any one of us is being accused of having more information than other agencies that are not at the table today.
What are your thoughts? Do you think it should apply to the letter of intent as well?
They couldn't have just picked 8, 9 random people. Like everybody here at this table, me not so much because I'm not associated with, one of these organizations, but they picked these people because they knew about the situation. And so I feel like, first of all, this letter of intent, whether we agree to it or not, you didn't write it, I didn't write it, the city wrote it. You see what I mean? So I think the letter of intent is probably safe right now. As far as that conflict of interest, it's the city that wrote it, so. And we're gonna say, yes, we like it, or no, we don't. And you're not gonna say, well, put in there that Wabanaki, blah, blah, you know what I mean? No, you wouldn't do that. So I mean, we have to trust that you're part of your organization, but you're also on this committee. Like I said, random people couldn't have been here making these decisions, so we need everybody that's here. That's how I feel.
I think I have a similar thought. I am not here thinking that there's money coming back to my agency from this, there's likely not. But I think this is an open conversation we're having and it's being televised and recorded, and it's not the final decision about this letter. So I think whatever input, the end user input is helpful also for people who have filled these out before to understand the process.
Right.
So I think that we're fine at this point.
Yeah, and one thought that I had is, at the end of this letter of interest process, we may wind up just accepting the Moss template as it exists.
Because that's something.
And that will be a point where we need to decide, okay, if we're gonna sort of recraft that scoring methodology and application pretty intensively, that may be a place where the conflict could really manifest itself. But we might also not, we might just say, no, this template exactly represents what we heard from the community. And it might be less of an issue. But then the actual scoring, of course, will be the critical place where it'll be a smaller group of us, I imagine. Shelley will score.
So,
feel like-
You saw that coming, right?
I feel like I had like a misunderstanding before at the last meeting that we corrected, and it would kind of speaks directly to that. Like, we should not be limiting the scope based off our opinions, and that's exactly the opposite of what we're doing. We're asking the community to limit the scope. So as long as we're leaning into whatever they're saying, I don't see the conflict.
I agree. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yes.
Thank you for
Okay.
having that conversation.
I took no notes, so it's gonna be tough to recreate these minutes.
We can do the
It's
transcript.
All right, so
A letter.
for the letter of interest, I took a document that the city has issued and really simplified it because it was for some pretty complex CDBG grants. I think on the front page, what I would look for feedback is how long we want to give for folks to send letters, and whether or not you would like to also concurrently schedule a workshop in case we have questions or want to receive oral presentations. The introduction section was murdered after something we've done before. I think they're really critical, as you can tell, because I highlighted it in yellow, was that we're all in agreement, that we're not using the letter of interest as like a first part of the application process, and that we wouldn't preclude anyone from applying if they didn't submit, but that's obviously a committee decision.
I feel like you reflected it very well, because those were our conversation points at the last meeting, so.
That's what we talked about.
I think the next section, just making sure that folks have access to the permissible activities before they submit their application. And then I think the next section is really, the format and content is the meat of what we're hoping to get from the letters of interest. And so that's, I think, the place where I potentially missed things, or we might want to phrase things differently or add bullets. But I did my best to sort of brainstorm the types of things that I would want to know from potential applicants, based on our conversation.
I think that even if you're not an applicant, you could submit this, because I, like, what I was thinking
Yeah.
was, I would like the collection of these to tell a story about what people with unique perspectives are seeing in the community. And, you know, I do work in prevention all the time, but I also see gaps in other places. And so I would like this to be an opportunity for me to, or, you know, whoever, to write those kinds of things. Like, this is my unique perspective about what the gaps are and why they're difficult to fill, or why they exist, or, and so even if someone had no interest in applying, they might have some really great content to contribute.
Right, someone who has lived experience that just wants to share that this is an important aspect of the response.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think these could easily be sort of rephrased to encompass both organizations who we anticipate also applying, and also just people who have to share.
Yeah.
Other comments on the letter? Thing you'd like to see different? Expand on? Taken out?
I think, like, from the perspective of someone who like responds to some of these, it, like, some of the questions are more difficult because they aren't concrete, right? So what's your implementation timeline? Well, that depends on how much money you're giving me and for how long, right? So there's, you know, there might be, we might not get exactly what we want from that, those kinds of questions. I kind of, like, I reflected back on what Jamie said about how what their funding tiers are, and thought that, not that I'm suggesting that we do funding tiers like that, but if you like, if you had a little bit of money, a medium-sized amount of money, and a bigger amount of money, what would that allow you to do, right? And without making it too complicated and like dreamy or whatever, I just, yeah.
Let's pause on that one.
I like that they had 3 different tiers. Because we were wondering about that, like,
I like it too.
yeah. We'd been talking about that as well.
Why am I missing that question?
What are you missing?
I'm looking for my question that asks how much, what amount, okay, here we go.
You might wanna also number them, that will be easier for you.
What amount of organizational funds, how do we,
If we did the tier thing, we could they could pick instead of coming out with something exorbitant or.
Right.
I mean, if we, maybe, for example, I don't know, would we even wanna limit ourselves at this point to that?
That was my concern.
That's, yeah,
I see what you mean.
Like, what if there's one brilliant idea
That'll suck up all the
that'll
money.
take up all the money? Is there a possibility that we would still wanna fund that one brilliant idea?
He's holding his
I think again, it's important to let the people bring us the information and then go from there.
If we had a tier, then that would be a lot easier to.
Maybe we could just add a line in there, something to that extent. You're not limited to one idea if you've got a couple ideas.
Right, if you had tiers, you could.
It doesn't have to be one specific thing.
No. Right,
in this case, less structure is better.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, because then we can do structure on the other side based on what the information that we get, if we need to.
Will we be sharing it in the RFP?
I think we
The
may end
application.
up doing, maybe, we may end up wanting to do that, depending on what we get back,
Right, yeah.
right?
And yeah, not do it now, but save it maybe for later.
Yeah. Cause I think, to me, this is like, what are the possibilities? What are all the possibilities? Show them to us and then we can define things.
Yeah.
I think we're thinking about options based on what we know. And we don't know a lot of.
Yes.
I'll take a stab at trying to flower up that question to sort of generate those sorts of options and ideas based on different levels of investment.
Do you wanna give it a whirl and send it back out? Take a look at it.
Do you think it's
So it can
something?
be, yeah. Does that mean it's gonna be another 2 weeks before we get it out?
Perfect. I think if we could do, I don't know,
Email.
email in 24 hours, is that reasonable to everyone? Okay.
Then we don't have to wait for another meeting, for sure.
right.
Did anyone have a reaction to the no longer than 5 pages in length?
I thought it was too long.
I thought you
I did too, I was like, what? I didn't hear everything.
5 pages is,
What do you think?
I think it really highlighted that we're looking for information, not full-blown proposals.
Yeah.
So I think that was smart.
One page would be
1 page.
adequate, I would think.
I couldn't even get all these bullets on one page.
There's one page of just bullets right here.
Just give them a couple lines.
Yeah.
You don't need that.
Do you really think 5 pages is gonna prevent anyone from filling it out?
Well, it says up to 5 pages, right?
Yeah, so I mean, you might get some 3-page, some
I guess the
2-page.
question is, do you wanna limit it to 3? I almost said 3, so that's why I'm asking that. I said, no, 5.
It isn't gonna take that long to read 5
I
pages.
don't think we're gonna get 10,000.
No.
So yeah, I think
Oh,
that's-
Okay.
And also, it's a lot harder to write something well in 3 pages than it is in 5. So it takes more time to write,
especially if you're asking specific
right?
questions.
So just, I would say, leave it at 5, we can skim, yeah.
So you're gonna send that out to us email?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any new business?
I really like what Jamie was talking about as far as putting the RFP out and then having a meeting, like giving the time. I know that's not what we're doing right now. Are we going to do something similar when we get to that point?
That was the question about the workshop.
Right, like once we decide what our RFP is actually gonna be, we shoot it out. Maybe it's too, maybe it's too early to make that choice. I don't know,
To have a session where folks can come in.
like that, yeah, just make a window so people can come in. I just thought it was a really great idea.
We had talked about having that after
We did talk
after we get the information, and then, yeah, and we'll have a workshop for the people that have submitted and that are chosen to come in and talk to us further. So. Anything else new? If not, record time.
Do we wanna, we had talked about earlier the possibility of also doing a public input session.
Didn't we kind of table that? So we did the letter of intent.
We did,
Instead,
and
yeah.
I think maybe we want to, in thinking about it, maybe it's better to have it after it can be semi-structured from the committee as to what's gonna be, discussed. If we just throw it out there now, we're probably gonna get a room full of people that are gonna wanna all be heard, and that's the whole purpose of having them come. But at the same time, if we don't know more than what we know right now, I don't know how beneficial that's gonna be for them.
And with Jamie's suggestion to sort of rephrase it to solicit not just people who would apply, but people who are just interested in the outcome.
Right.
We're also providing an opportunity for the public to participate, so.
And that would be their opportunity. I think we have to do one and just kind of follow the comments, bear with them. I mean, most people come to public comment because they just want to be heard. They don't want to talk for a long time. They just want you to listen to what they're saying. So we'll have to put on our listening ears. We'll need to keep that on the radar because we'll have to give a little bit of notice for that one. So. What do you think?
So what do we have for next meeting? Because we will do this via email and it will go out, but we definitely won't have the responses by next meeting.
Right.
So we really just have Scott. What else?
We have Scott and she's coming back, so we'll have more discussion with the county. It probably wouldn't hurt to start looking at the things that we were gonna use from Moss. Have those to really give them a good look and a good once over to make sure they're what we want.
Were we inviting Wendy Dana to that meeting as well, the one that?
Yeah, she was gonna bring her.
Oh, perfect, okay.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna poke yourself in the eye with that pencil. All I could see was that lead. But yeah, we'll have that, and that will take up a fair amount, probably. Hi, can we help you?
School committee meeting?
They'll be coming in at the high school
Oh, the high school tonight.
tonight, yes.
Sorry about that.
That's not a problem.
Back down here, that's all.
Next time, next time.
Next time, gotcha.
I wonder if he's gonna run again. Yeah. So that would probably be enough if we looked at those, the two things we're gonna use from Moss, have them handy to look at. But I don't know how the conversation's gonna go with the administrator and the two people on the committee here, so we wanna give that a fair amount. Have your questions ready for county? Anything that might pop up, so we'll have some discussion time.
I love the idea of really communicating and coordinating with the county, because I think the trick to maximizing this funding is leveraging. And so that's really important if we can do it.
Yeah. They were very open to coming and having the discussion. I think you heard that was one point Jamie made 2 or 3 times, was about collaboration and working together, so.
And it could be like, there might even be opportunities where if we time this right and the applications are being reviewed at the same time, there might be ways to suggest that applications coordinate, or we might be able to see from kind of a higher level of ways that can happen. I don't know that for sure, but.
Well, it might help more people. It might help more organizations if we.
Right.
If we get collaborative.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It would seem like if we're going to be looking at applications at the same time they're looking at them, that we would be able to do an executive session with them. So they're not publicly saying everything that they're gonna be doing, but yet we would have access to that conversation And it wouldn't have to be a long one, but I don't know that they would be open to having all of their things discussed. Would have to ask them. I mean, but if it's gonna afford us more collaboration, it'll be worth it. If we can do that. And we could do it we could do it after one of our meetings. I know that makes it longer, but. Sure. So.
Yeah.
We can work something out. They'll start getting things and then we'll know more when we start getting responses as well. So if there's nothing else,
Adjourned.
thank you for meeting